to figure out Google's new way of doing these live chat broadcasts.
Right. Yeah, okay, great.
That's why I joined, because I saw the link on the YouTube channel.
Over on the chat. Okay. Hi, did we get somebody else joining us from India?
Yes, hello.
Hi.
Pranay here from Enable India.
Hi, Pranay. How are you? Good to see you.
I'm good. Yes, I can see you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm not sharing video today. My internet connection is running especially slow.
Okay, no problem.
All right. Okay, so I'm just gonna hop back over to the event again and see if I can just see if it changed anything. Get started. All right, well, at least now it's saying live. So I guess if anybody is watching and you're unable to get connected to the live call, look over on the right-hand side of the YouTube page and you'll see a link to a Google Hangout. And if you click there, then you'll be able to talk and participate live. All right, and I think that's about the best I can do for trying to get everybody connected. All right, so we kind of have a pro forma agenda, if you will, that we can go through depending on who else joins us as we're going through here, and if we get any chat or anything like that, you know, we can always go different directions with it. So hopefully it'll be more of a group conversation than me kind of pushing through an agenda or a meeting. So Bob and Pranay, I think you guys, this might be the first time that I'm actually talking to you guys live. Do you want to take a second and introduce yourself and let us know what you're hoping to find out today or talk about today?
Yeah, sure. Yes, this is the first time I'm joining the call, and as for so far, since I think almost 1 month past, we have joined the Enable organization, and the progress is we have already found 2 persons from Goa, 1 child from Kolkata, and there is 1 fellow from Delhi itself, and we have already printed the hands. 1 fellow has lost his 3 fingers, so we have already printed the hand. We are about to assemble the hand, and will be joining them giving them the hand soon.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And we are looking forward to help. I think there are almost 7 to 8 children in Kolkata, and we'll be giving them the hand soon. So that's our target. So I just wanted to know whether now at present, if suppose if we take 1 target, suppose we want to give a hand to someone, so how long do you all take to give the hand to that person? I just wanted to know that.
Oh,
so according to that, we need to set a target.
Are you talking about like actually setting a deadline for yourself?
Yes, for a 1 hand.
Well, I don't know. I'd like the group to kind of provide some feedback on that. Maybe even Robert or Bob, if you guys have delivered hands, maybe you can kind of chime in here. I think you're going to find that there's probably a lot of difference depending on the chapter and how many volunteers they have and how special the case is and things like that.
Okay.
But I would say up front, there's not typically a deadline. There's no requirement. So it's really whatever works out between you and your recipient.
Yes. Okay, fine. I just wanted to know that. Because we have got the 3 recipients at present. 7 people are from Kolkata is still waiting. So it is like we have already built a hand of that 3 finger hand that will be giving almost by next week, last week of December.
But then it sounds like you have several more that you need to create.
No, that design and everything has been created. Hand is already printed. We just need to assemble it, and then we'll be giving the hand.
But I mean, do you have other people on your wait list?
Yes, not as such, but it is like one mother from Kolkata, that kid's mother, she had spoken to us. I think even Joe Cross, he had sent us the mail as a BCC. So we have already spoken to that lady. Even she is like, she'll be giving us the hand design of size of the hand soon. So once we'll get the design, we'll be starting with the printing process.
And Pranay, just for full disclosure, I'm Joe. Hi.
I'm sorry.
I'm Joe Cross. This is me.
Hello. Sorry,
Hi.
sorry. Okay.
All right. And so we could probably talk a little bit more about that first delivery if you want, or your next case. But if you don't mind, can I ask Bob to introduce himself as well?
Hey, my name's Bob Gusick, and I'm from North Carolina, and I've been involved with the Helping Hand group out of UNC with Jeff Powell, and I've been working on a myoelectric version of the hand. And since they're kind of far away, and we've got 3 maker spaces here in the Piedmont Triad, I decided to start up a chapter here between the 3 maker spaces, which are WS Mixer in Winston-Salem, the Forge in Greensboro, and the Elements Makers Guild in Burlington. And I've printed 2 hands so far, one for the prototype for the myoelectric one, and then the other one for submission to start the chapter. I'm going to finish assembling that tomorrow night at WS Mixer.
Great. Welcome.
Thank you.
And is there anything in particular, Bob, that you were hoping to talk about today?
No, I just wanted to meet everybody and start getting involved with the e-NABLE project. And we've already got a pretty good group here at the Forge that are just dying to start printing stuff. And I'm also going to be reaching out to a local hospital. It's called Wake Forest Baptist Hospital. They actually have a children's hospital there called Brenner's Children's Hospital, and I'm going to be reaching out to them to try and get in touch with local kids who may need the prosthetics, or even adults. We actually have one person here at the Forge who needs a 3-finger prosthetic, so we're going to be making one for him.
So it sounds like you guys might actually have some design capability there? Modeling?
Yes. Yeah, I've been doing the modeling for the new myoelectric hand, and right now I've got the first version where the motor sits in the palm, and then I'm also designing one that's got a motor that sits on the back of the hand where the normal detention adjustments are. Yeah, and I use SolidWorks and OpenSCAD to do my design work.
OpenSCAD, interesting. So the unlimited version 2, I think, was ultimately done with OpenSCAD through that customizer, yeah?
Yep, and actually Jeff Powell and his group, the students in the engineering group, took an unlimited design, and they've actually motorized that one as well.
Oh, wow.
So we're working on getting a good, reliable design. Probably the hardest part right now has been the muscle sensor. The ones they were using, they kind of came up with their own circuit. I used one off of Adafruit that appears to work quite well. We actually had an open house about 2 months ago, and we had all the kids putting it on their arms and trying it, and they just loved it. So they can't wait until we get the final version working where they can actually have one.
Very cool. Well, what I will say, Bob, is that we get consistent requests here in the chapters group for help with design. Being able to handle those kinds of 2-finger design, 3-finger designs, taking something that maybe is kind of a prototype that only currently exists for a left hand and kind of turning that into a right hand. So, I find that the people who have those skills are in pretty high demand. And if you find that you have some spare capacity there, then maybe we can find a safe way to get that word out so that maybe some people could lean on you for some help.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got quite a few people in between the 3 maker spaces in this area, and we're all within like 60 miles of each other, and we've got a lot of people that are very proficient with design. Some of them are actually engineers at Honda. So definitely want to leverage that. And once we get our chapter approved, I'll be setting up a website where people can find out information about our group and what we can provide as far as design services and everything.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be a huge help. I know I was just talking with Barbara Johnston. She's over at Northrop Grumman, and she's got a couple of groups that obviously have a lot of engineers with those kinds of skills. And once people found out about it, she had a backlog pretty quickly of people asking for custom designs, you know?
Yep, I can imagine.
Yeah, excellent. So, all right, well, welcome.
Thank you.
And, you know, I'm not sure if everybody realizes it, but we're all lucky to have an extra special guest here today. John, you know, the guy who got this whole thing started. Do you want to say hi and introduce yourself real quick?
Sure, thank you. Michelle, I started e-NABLE in 2013, and I'm still one of the co-moderators of the Google Plus community. I am prototyping right now a new website called enableinternational.net, configured to offer resources in translation to any language you like, because there's some very helpful machine translation services around. I'm still very much involved in trying to figure out what we need to do in order to expand in size and in scope.
All right, well, welcome, John. I'm glad that you came.
I'm happy to be here.
All right, so I have to admit, I'm always a little bit torn in terms of how to sort of best facilitate these conversations. You know, we can turn them into just sort of a real quick, brief discussion. We can just go through any other questions that the people who are here with us live have. I can also kind of think a little bit about the people who might be watching this either on YouTube or later on who weren't able to join us live, and talk just a little bit about sort of what the chapters group is and what some of the benefits are of being part of it, and sort of the process of becoming a chapter. Maybe I can save that to the end, and that way if everybody wants to sort of drop off, I can just do a cute little monologue and share with everybody. But you know, John, to be honest, you know, one question that we always get, and so thinking about this being recorded, if you don't mind, if not right now, then maybe in a few minutes you can kind of think about how to respond. Would you be willing to talk a little bit about this question that we always get? What is Enable? What is, you know, enabling the future? What is the Enable Community Foundation? What is now enableinternational.net? And maybe just kind of talk to us a little bit. I think you're maybe best positioned to be able to answer that question. Do you want to answer now, or do you want to think about it for a minute?
I can do that. I'm going to share my screen and the story.
Thanks.
And click. And now I will open the local version of, or not. So we'll go to the non-local version.
Can everybody else see John's screen? I'm seeing it come and go, but
Yeah, it's coming and going for me too.
Okay.
With you in a second.
There
Yes,
it is.
even we can see the screen.
All right. So
Perfect.
for me, this is the Rosetta Stone. Can people see that diagram?
Yes.
Okay. So look, I'm in Rochester, New York, in a lab I started called the Magic Act Lab. But we can ignore that for the moment. The inner big circle called the Enable movement. With the Google Plus community, and there are now a number of entities around the world, the e-NABLE moniker. Are all of you in the Google Plus community? Are each of you in the Google Plus community?
I am.
Yes, even we are.
I don't think I am yet.
Okay. Nothing is mandatory, but I do think that that's still the big social mosh pit where people can interact with the most people. That's not always a good thing, but it's a true fact. Enablingthefuture.org is a pretty much one-woman show done by the remarkable Jen Owen, who's married to Ivan Owen, who co-produced the very first 3D printed Enable hand. It's a really good blog and repository of resources and stories about the movement. And I'm going to guess that all of you are familiar with it because I think it's probably got the greatest reach. It's not to be confused, however, with several organizations that have bubbled up. One of them is Joe's enableoutreach.org, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and the Enable Community Foundation, which I also founded a few years ago, but which I'm no longer involved with, which is also a 501c3. And then on top of that, over 50 Facebook groups and websites, see them, which are all, like you, chapters or outposts or something of this global Enable movement. If that seems confusing, it's because it is. I think it's helpful to think of this as a movement, Enable as a movement, rather than an organization. And the really interesting challenge, and the thing that I'm focusing on, is use the tools of the internet and the kinds of things that enableinternational.net is, the things that Joe is doing and the kinds of things that the foundation is doing. What kinds of processes can you put in place to help the movement be more effective? Answer to that, there are different organizational approaches, there are different non-organizational approaches, and it's evolving. I think that Enable, a global network or a global movement of volunteers using 3D printers to make prosthetics, is actually a proof of concept, is a prototype for something much broader, which I'm currently calling the Connected Humanitarians movement. I suspect that many of us, I'm going to turn off screen sharing, that many of us would be kinds of solutions to other kinds of underserved populations if it plugged into our sort of makers for good skill set and mentality. I've begun exploring something I'm calling the Connected Humanitarians movement, which takes Enable as an inspiration and a prototype and may be able to expand the scope of what we do beyond 3D printing and prosthetics, but still maintaining this basic volunteerism, emerging technology for underserved technologies flavor shown is possible. It's messy and confusing fashion.
That was awesome. I really hope YouTube recorded that. I'm going to cry later if we missed it.
But if you don't screw it up, it should be recorded on YouTube.
Yeah, well, that's the key factor, is whether I screwed it up.
Okay.
All right, so do we have any questions for John?
Yes, I have a question. Hi, John.
Hey, nice to meet you. I didn't get your name. I'm sorry.
My name is Pranay. I'm from Enable India.
I got the Enable India part.
Pranay.
Enable India.
Okay.
Pranay. Yeah. Hi, John. My question is, at present, whatever we are doing, it is for upper limb, right?
What?
Upper limb, upper part of a body. Hand. Hello?
Oh, for a part of the body. Yes, of course.
Yes, yes. So my question is, in future, are we thinking of the legs also?
Really good question.
In
I,
future, we are thinking of legs.
uh, so in
Hello.
the United States, at least, go
Yes, because
ahead.
we had one question. One fellow had asked us like, is there any organization which uh, produces a prosthetic hands for animals? Because one fellow from India Unites for Animals, even they had asked us the question same.
Huh.
So I just wanted to know.
That's a good question. I've never heard that one. Thank you, Pranay.
Yeah.
There have been a number of projects, not organizations, but projects that have made
Yes.
prosthetic legs for, I think, maybe a pig, a duck with a 3D printed bill. Yeah, there's a group at RIT working on one as well.
Hey, John. I also have heard of a group doing in California this does human prosthetics, but now they're making prosthetics for dogs in the local area. And there's
Right.
actually some videos on YouTube.
Right. So it does happen. It's not exactly a humanitarian effort, but as a matter of fact, it may turn out to be relevant.
Yes.
There's much less of that for humans. Lower limbs are a much more challenging problem than upper limbs. They're
Yes,
weight
yes,
bearing.
correct.
They're weight bearing. And that means both that the socket has to be really just right. If the device fails mechanically, you fall down, you bang your head. Furthermore, for that reason, in the United States at least, we're sort of getting a pass on doing body-powered for free prosthetics. And there are regulatory on things that don't fit into that layer. Having said that, I think it will happen, but I think we can figure out how to do what we're doing better in the relatively safe and defined area of upper limb prosthetics before we get into lower limb prosthetics. I'm, for example, working right now on a device called a pediatric stander. There are children and adults who don't have enough body strength to support their bodies. And you can get a device for a couple of $1,000s, but it's a couple of $1,000s, which basically, but it doesn't walk. It just holds a child upright. That's not rocket science. So I'm working on a PVC pipe version. They're for maybe $30 or $40, which will help children who can't stand. It's not a prosthetic health project. That is an example for me of what could be an expansion of our scope.
Okay.
Any other questions for John?
For what it's worth, is that making prosthetics for animals might be a way of developing expertise and understanding towards making lower limb prosthetics for children. But I don't think we're ready for that, and I don't recommend it.
Yeah, I would say, you know, from my experience with chapters from all over the world, John, you know, highlighted one of the biggest obstacles, and I think that is governments tend to start getting very interested as soon as you start working on lower limbs. You know, licensing boards, you know, regulatory agencies, all those folks suddenly start asking questions and going to your events and sort of wondering what you're doing.
What else we got?
All right. Any other general questions for anybody?
Yes, again I have a question. Sorry.
Please, yeah, no, that's why we're here.
Okay, I found one more site that's webapp.enable-enable.me, wherein you can find all the kinds of hands. You just have to give a measurement and hand, you get a .tsl file already ready, right?
e-nable.net. Yes.
No, web app.e-enable.me/measure.
Perhaps you would
Can you
type,
put it in
someone
the,
would type that into the
yeah,
chat, because I don't quite get it.
yeah, can you put it
Yes,
in the
yes,
chat?
wait. Yes, this one.
Ah, I think that's our hand-o-matic, right?
Probably, but
Yes,
that's
hand
gonna
up.
be,
Yes, indeed.
yeah.
So I know the
I just
history of that.
I just wanted to know, is there any one place wherein all the designs of a particular hands are being placed so that we can take it?
There are currently 3 places you can look. I just created a page for most of them, which has the virtue of being organized. I stole most of the content with Jen Owen's permission, but it may be easier to find here than on Enabling the Future. So first of all, if you click on the resources link for Enabling the Future, you will find designs well documented in English.
Yes.
Same information in a different form at enablecommunityfoundation.org, at enableinternational.net/resources. You and Vikat, a question.
Yeah.
Vikat, are you in India also?
Oh, we can't hear you, Vikat. I can tell you're talking, but we can't hear you.
Yeah, his mic is creating a problem, I guess.
Okay. Well, does anyone know where Vikat is located?
Vikat is located in Sawadam. It's in Goa only. He's my neighbor.
Okay. So
Yeah, they work together. Maybe you could type your question into the, if you have a question, Vikat, maybe you can type it into the chat. We'll answer it that way.
Right. Anyway, my question for you all is there a need for Indian translations of these resource pages? Or are you and yours as good as English as you are?
Yes, it's there's no not necessary to translate it. It's proper.
Okay. Okay. So I think I'm not showing, but I can show my entire screen just well enough to say this resource page
Oh, okay.
is
Okay.
just meant to be really simple.
Okay.
All of
Okay.
the well-established devices are here. Go to pages, information. There are other designs knocking around and variations, and it's one of the problems I'm trying to work on. If you go to Thingiverse, for example, you'll find scores, maybe hundreds of raptor hands, and it's very hard to know which is the right one. Designed that way. I would look at one of the 3 places I just mentioned: Enabling the Future, enableinternational.net, enablecommunityfoundation.org, all of whom are trying to provide clear links to the key designs.
You know, I think one important aspect, Pranay, it's interesting to me that you pointed us to the Hand-O-Matic.
Yeah.
Because that tool specifically only exists either for there at the Hand-O-Matic, and that's for what, the old Raptor and the Cyborg Beast, or for the Phoenix hand and the Unlimited Arm. And even the Phoenix hand is a little bit tricky to find. It's not really advertised, but you can create a Phoenix hand by using the Thingiverse customizer on the Unlimited Arm. Right, so you basically, you use the customizer for the unlimited arm, you put in the measurements, it generates not only the arm, but it also generates the Phoenix hand. And so you're able to actually get you can plug in the numbers is what I'm saying and actually generate a Phoenix hand that way. But none of the other designs like the Raptor Reloaded, you know, the K1, any of these other designs that you've seen, I'm not aware of any tool that allows you to plug in numbers and get a scaled version.
That's
Okay.
right. There is another one on the horizon called LimForge, which is sort of Handomatic 2.0. But what date on its status or on which designs it supports?
Okay. So Pranay, does that then cause you to have questions about how to scale these hands, or are you familiar with how to actually scale them up?
We have tried our best to scale the hand. I would like to share my screen because we have recently printed a 3-finger hand. I would like to show it to you all.
Oh, please, I'd love to see that. I think we all would. But be careful, you realize this means that you have design skills as well. Now people are going to come knock on your door. You all can see the screen now? No, I still see you. John, did you just click the green arrow icon over on the left?
Yes.
There it goes.
You all can see now?
Now we see your screen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a 3-finger hand.
Oh, look at that.
Nice. Very nice.
Thank you.
What tool did you use to design that?
We have designed it. We have one more volunteer in Gujarat. He had designed a design. He had scaled a design.
But did he use Blender or?
I think he's using a mesh mixer software to do
mesh
it.
mixer. Okay.
Yes. This finger is for a person. 1 second.
You know what, Pranay? I think you might be the first person I've ever seen doing this work on a Macintosh, on an Apple. I don't know, what slicers do they even have for a Macintosh?
I have Google 360, Fusion 360, and Mesh Mixer too.
Okay, and those do the slicing for you?
Mesh Mixer does everything actually.
Huh, that's interesting.
I wanted to show you all the hand actually, the recipient, but I'm not getting the pics. Yeah.
So this is a variation on the Phoenix?
Yes. And this was one more fellow. This is a second recipient who doesn't have a palm. He suffered because of diabetics. He's a diabetic patient.
Does he have a functioning wrist? It looks like it was just above the wrist.
Yes, above the wrist actually. The elbow, we'll have to give him the elbow hand.
Okay. You know, since this is actually a good time to discuss it, but if you haven't looked at it, consider looking at the Python hand. It's not the most popular design, but we've had some success with it for people who have either amputation or somehow right above the wrist. Okay. It doesn't have opening and closing fingers, but that's good because if you don't have a wrist, then you don't actually have to try to open and close the fingers. Instead, it has little rails that you can attach attachments to and slide them off and on. So for example, you can slide on a hook or a ping pong paddle or a swimming paddle or something like this. So a lot of our recipients who don't have a wrist but don't want a full arm, they actually opt for the Python hand. So maybe look that one up and think about it.
The other thing you should look at is the
sorry, John, you cut out. What was that?
The gripper hand. or rather the gripper thumb hand. I've just typed it in, which has just been released in the last week or two. This is something that Skip Metz is working on in my lab. It has, namely, the thumb, if you can see what I'm doing here. And it's actually, it's got a very nice grip. You can hold a fork with it on its own. So you lose the ability to actively open and close it, but in fact you can put something in it and it holds. And that means that you're free to use your elbow, also opening and closing the hand. It would be an important solution. And this particular patient looks like this might actually, and just give him a gripper at the end of his arm. It may not even above the elbow. It may just fit on the forearm.
Okay, okay.
Something good for holding.
That's a good idea.
John, I would like to ask you one more question. Is there any design for a part above the elbow till this hand?
Yeah, above elbow amputation.
Yes, yes. Is there any design at present? Because we have two recipients actually.
Don't have a solution of that sort. I am. I'm working on it. And actually, if you have two, and especially if we can also make sure that there's a medical professional working with you, we're getting close to being ready for pilot subjects. This transhumeral approach that we have. It's also based on the gripper. But no, right now there isn't a solution like that. But well, Bob, are you prepared to tell us about your above elbow design?
Well, it's not my design, but I saw the one they're working on. We have a little boy down in Chapel Hill who's had a birth defect, and he's only got half of his upper arm. And we took some scans at the last meeting we had back in October, and they're working on adapting the limitless arm to be used by him, along with the electric version that lets him grip the hand without having anything that he could really flex, like a wrist or anything, or an elbow even to move it. Right. So they're working on that right now.
Yeah, you know, of course, the problem with transhumeral is that you also have the whole question of how are you going to actuate these things, is the obvious answer. But the technology is more difficult, and it's less volunteer friendly than the body powered things that we've been doing. Our approach, just to show my cards, is to make, I'm going to move the camera away a little so you can see, which locks into whatever posture you put it in. So if I grab the arm, it unlocks and I can move it to a posture. When I let go, it stays there. Then you have a sound arm, and you can use it to adjust the arm angle, something into the gripper hand. And the point is, this thing is still basically hanging passively from the stump, but it can adopt whatever posture you want, and it can hold whatever you want. And potentially it is simple, and because you arm to continue to hang down, the stump to continue to point towards the ground, it may not require careful prosthetic socketry if that's not available. Always a good thing to have a prosthetist involved. If it's really just hanging down from the shoulder, you may be able to get by with a good shoulder harness. Let me ask, in Goa, do you have or some kind of medical professional who works with you?
Sorry, I'm sorry, in the sense? I didn't get a question.
Do you have a doctor or a prosthetist?
Yes, actually, Vikat's wife is a doctor.
Ah, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, that's convenient. That helps.
Because as you know, everything we're doing, we're trying to walk this fine line between being and not being hurtful. And the more oversight you can get, the better. So, look, I have a question, if it's fair. So Goa has a doctor on board, and it's got several designers and so on. The group has several designers available. I heard Joe mention that Northrop Grumman is doing design services for others. Joe, as you're sort of providing the service of counseling chapters, in your head or on paper somewhere, a directory of who's got what?
No, not right now. That would be an interesting thing to augment the chapters map, though, with that.
Well, so that's something we should talk about.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, to me, John, we talked about the community a little bit earlier, and sort of the broader challenge of an open community and sort of how to make that work. And matching, of course, is one of the critical elements of our community, right? Whether we do that sort of on a one-to-many or on a peer-to-peer basis, that sort of creates this structural problem. And I think what you're talking about here is even an enhancement to our normal matching, where we kind of always try to find somebody who's close to a recipient. We try to make sure that they've had the experience of at least going through a test hand and doing some of the other sort of basics. But when it really comes down to it, we don't go so far as to say, do you have the access to the right type of printer? Are you using the exact kind of filament? Do you have the ability to do custom design? So that would be an interesting element to matching, and really see if we could level
right.
that out.
My feeling is that for better and for worse, there are all of these different groups. Paraguay as an interesting case. All of these different chapters, cultures, with all of these different constraints and solutions, a whole diversity of approaches. It doesn't matter whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's just a fact, and it's not going to go away.
Yeah.
So increasingly, I'm thinking about just informational resources that will then allow people to find the help or the partners or the information they need, and either plug into an existing solution, like an existing matching solution. What I gather Goa is doing, which is matching their own people to local needs.
Correct.
Is that true, that you, Pranay, that the people you're working with are ones that you found locally, or did you get them through some other mechanism?
No, we have visited the places, and even we had asked if there are any people who are enabled. And one fellow, Joe Cross, has linked the mail to us. So from that we came to know. She is from Kolkata.
I see. Okay, so it's a mixed case, right? So one of your recipients matched through Joe, and the others were found locally in Goa. Is that how it works?
Yes, yes.
And how did you find them locally in Goa?
One fellow is like every day when I go to office, I see him next. He was sitting somewhere. So the moment I joined Enable India, I was like, why can't he target him first? He was the first person. Sorry, second one.
That's great.
So even he was like very happy to see us coming to him, finding information, and giving him like a ray of hope, kind of.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely capture that as something else for us to talk about after the call here today. Maybe get something going, in the Google Plus group or something. Talk about how we can sort of add these capabilities to our matching.
Okay.
Okay, well, we've been at it for about 45 minutes. I'm happy to keep going. Are there any other questions anybody'd like to get out there? Robert,
Yes,
you've been kind of quiet. I'm gonna see if Robert, just for a second, has anything he'd like to ask.
Yeah, so just for people online, I'm Valerie Narumi's father, and she's a high school student here in Southern California who started up a chapter, and she's been pretty active. I think one concern that she always has and she's very careful about too is about privacy concerns, and make sure that she doesn't show faces of her recipients. So anyways, maybe more of a concern in the United States than other parts of the world, but that's something that she does show concern about, and make sure that she respects the rights of her recipients. That's all.
That's a good point. And I think most of us do try to do that, but here was a case during this very chat where we just put a quick look at one of recipients up on the screen. I'd be inclined to think that this particular group are sort of an internal group of consultants, but the YouTube video is going to be public. And Joe, I think it isn't hard to edit one of those YouTube videos while it's on YouTube in order to fuzz up faces. I think they have that built in.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll definitely go through. I got a note on that. But to your point, Robert, you know, I think as John pointed out earlier, it is an open community, right? And one of the sort of byproducts of that, it's not good or bad, it just is the way that it is that there's only so much control that we can really assert over any individual or group within the community. So all we really can do is encourage and try and give the community the tools that they need in order to do it, you know, sort of in an easy and reliable way. So John, I'm wondering, you know, would that be something that would be useful to put up on your enableinternational.net? You know, I know that your focus right now is maybe more just the literal transliteration, but I almost wonder, could we find people who'd be willing to put up sort of like vetted documents that are applicable within their community in their local language, so that, say, like a photograph, what do we call it, a waiver? You know, I know here in Hungary, we have a Hungarian photograph waiver, so that if we're having an event, you know, we ask all the participants to sign it so that we can, in fact, use their photograph later. And if they don't, then obviously we would never use their photograph. But then we don't share any, right? We don't try and block out.
Well, you're quite right. So that's a great idea, that the disclaimers are documents that do want to be in multiple languages. Yeah, no, I think that's a natural. I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I think I would want a curator, someone to just make sure that the machine to fix the machine translation. But for example, if fluent in Hungarian,
I know a lot of people who are.
so I would be quite happy to put up Hungarian translations to the system and add a critical documents section to the system if I had a curator for Hungarian and for the other languages. Obviously, I can handle English.
Yeah.
Thierry has agreed to be our curator for French. Joe, you might want to, you're aware of, certain people who could become, I don't think it's going to take much time, who could become the language checker for each language at enableinternational.net and put them in touch with me.
That could work. All right. So Robert, I apologize. We kind of went down a rabbit hole there on the on the photos. Did you have other things you wanted to chat about?
No, this has been a very good call. So I've learned a lot, and we'll be passing it along to Valerie, who couldn't make it.
Okay.
Very good. I hope to meet Valerie sometime.
Yes, she's busy filling out college applications too, so it's exciting right now.
Very.
Where are her priorities?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Oh, to be young again. All right. Well, one more time around the room. Does anybody else have any questions before we wrap up for today?
Okay, Joe, I just got a hand pics. Can I show you?
Sure. Are you going to give me more
Yes.
faces to blot out later?
Okay. You all can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Yes. This is a 3-finger.
Let me make sure.
Yep. Right.
So we had designed that 3-finger hand for this recipient.
Excellent.
That's great.
You know, have you posted that to Thingiverse? I'm curious.
Design you're talking about?
Yeah.
We have not posted design yet, but we'll post it soon once we deliver the hand.
Yeah, maybe after some testing and some feedback, because you know we actually had a gentleman in Israel who designed something very, very similar. In fact, Pranay, I might have sent you photos at the very beginning of that device that he created. I'm not sure, but that's not the first time that I've seen a need for that design. It might be interesting to share, especially if it was in Fusion or something that was easily changeable.
One more question.
Sure.
Yeah. Please continue. Sorry. Hello.
Yes. Were you going to say something? Was that John or who was that?
Okay.
Yes,
I was about to ask a question and blunder ahead just so we're not stuck here. I wanted to point out that there are a lot of edges that I would be very careful about. You've got all of these cutaways.
Yeah.
And it means that parts of the hand, I think, are going to be pressing against the edge of the plastic. This is exactly what prosthetists are for and watch out for. But you want to be very careful, and you want to advise your subject that if there's any redness or any irritation, they should put more padding. They should wear it less. They should wait until some calluses develop. And run it past your doctor also.
Okay. I would like to one more question. Before giving a hand to the recipient, do we need to take care of few things like some kind of testing of a hand before giving it to a recipient? Is there anything like that?
Ideally, you will test it mechanically, and you will check back with the person the very next day, next week, and then the very next month. We don't have good data of any sort about how long and how much these are used. And to be honest, I suspect they're not used that much, in part to feedback, and so we don't get to improve them.
Okay.
Something we have to figure out how to do is make that kind of follow-up a part of the process as the mechanical. Again, if you're working with the doctor, that may be a big opportunity.
Okay.
I should also mention that I'm working with an organization in India called Arogya Seva. Have you heard of them?
Yes, we have recently seen the website.
Okay. So they're working with us, and they're interested in collaborating with eNABLE members and communities. So they're potentially available to you as consultants, and they might become potentially available as operators. Expand to help us improve our processes as well as deliver devices, you know who to call.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, John, maybe, I don't think the chat saves to YouTube. So maybe if there was a link or an email address or even a name that Pranay could get in touch with, that might help connect them.
Well, for the moment, I would probably be, strangely enough, I would be the right person to connect you to Arogya Seva, their website, but their director, Daya Prasad Kulkarni, at the moment, but when he's not traveling or in India, he's based in Syracuse right now, which is just an hour away from me. So we're becoming sort of collaborators.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm not aware of any other questions in chat. I don't know if you guys are on the YouTube page, I guess. Do you see anything posted in the chat there?
I'm not there, so I don't know.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait, maybe it always starts to give me an echo. All right. I don't see any questions there.
Okay.
So I think we're pretty much a wrap. I guess I could, is anybody interested in some of those agenda items that I had put out in the post as far as the NatureWorks filament and some of these other topics that were on there? Does anybody want me to sort of jam through those?
I'd actually like to hear how the disbursement of that NatureWorks filament.
Okay. So the good news is, as of 2 days ago, we actually were able to take the first official receipt. Sort of, we received the very first shipment of NatureWorks filament. So for those of you who are not familiar, NatureWorks is a resin company. So they make the pellets that manufacturers use and stick into the extruder with color and all that stuff in order to actually make the plastic filament that you and I buy on spools. So that has really been one of the sort of complicating factors, is that NatureWorks themselves does not sell or produce filament, just the resin. So we've had to sort of work with their manufacturers in order to figure out how we're going to do the shipping and logistics and how much they're going to ship at any one time and what colors and all of that. So we took a test order of, I believe it was either 20 rolls or 40 rolls just a couple of days ago. So basically, Enable Outreach is working with Jen Owen, and Jen was really the one who got this donation from NatureWorks. And so she's the one ultimately who's making the decision about exactly who gets it and how much they get and all of that. I believe, if I'm representing her thinking accurately, I believe her goal is to try and start with the chapters group, which is why I talk about it here. She wants to help groups that are helping a lot of recipients. And the good news is that there's quite a bit of filament. So even when you factor in the shipping costs and getting it to a lot of our remote chapters and how that's going to get paid for and everything, it looks like there's still going to be somewhere in the 2,000–3,000 plus rolls of filament number. So even if it turns out to be more like 1,500 or 2,000 by the time DHL gets paid and everybody gets their piece of this, it's still a large number of rolls. So the problem isn't having filament available. The problem isn't having enough of a donation or having enough rolls to give out. The problem is figuring out how to actually ship out thousands of rolls of filament, right? This is not something that we are great at as an open community. So Enable Outreach is basically kind of stepping in here in order to sign the deals with DHL and kind of try and get the shipping piece of this done. So what we have are kind of two approaches. One is we're going to ship large quantities of the finished filament from NatureWorks' manufacturer in the United States, an Enable Outreach location in Utah. And we're basically just going to warehouse it there. And we're going to make it available to the community. And we're going to, from there ship it using a DHL discount that we have through Enable Outreach. And so that allows us to do two things. One is for those chapters that can pay for the shipping themselves, we'll be able to expedite it, because we'll basically have filament sitting in this warehouse. And when you tell us, for example, that you'll pay your own shipping, we'll be able to take those rolls, put them in a box, call DHL, schedule a pickup. We'll pay the upfront costs through DHL, through our discounted account, and then you'll just reimburse us through PayPal or something like that, right? Whatever is convenient in your location. For those people who cannot pay their own shipping, you live someplace very, very remote and it's very, very expensive, or that's the problem that you're having, is that you don't have the funds to go out there and get the filament yourself, then that's where Enable Outreach is also going to, pick certain chapters and certain groups that are doing really good work and subsidize or cover the cost of that shipping. So you'd be getting the free filament from NatureWorks plus the subsidized or free shipping from Enable Outreach, and wham bam, you get 10 or 20 rolls that shows up to your chapter in order to help you keep doing your good work. So that's the current plan. Once we get out this initial test delivery from the Enable Outreach location and actually get it out, then we'll know that the model works, and that's when we'll actually take the big shipment. Okay, so that was pretty confusing, right? But it's not done yet. Okay, well, let me see if I can make it worse. So NatureWorks, of course, has manufacturers all over the world. What I described was the logistics solution for the United States. We also have a NatureWorks manufacturer in Ireland, and we have another one, I believe, in Argentina, I want to say, but in South America. And so what that means is that we're going to be treating the groups and chapters in those regions a little bit differently. It'll look essentially the same. We'll still ship the filament directly to the chapters, but instead of warehousing it, we're going to wind up probably having to ship it directly from those manufacturers. So we'll send them DHL labels. They'll stick them on the boxes. Enable Outreach will still, apply their discount. It's just that logistically, it'll be a little bit different. So it might take a little bit longer to get in those areas, because we'll be relying on the manufacturers to turn around the shipments rather than from the Enable Outreach warehouse. So there we go. That's the update I have. and just so that people have a sense of the cost, the DHL discount is roughly in the 60 to 70% range. Kind of depends on where you're originating from and where it's going to. So if you're a chapter who would like to get 10-ish, 20-ish rolls of filament, either for prototyping, design work, final production, whatever it may be, and you can cover your own costs. So for example, today we were looking at costs from the United States to Ghana, and that's in the, say, $75 range with our discount. So if you can cover those kinds of costs, then you can go to enableoutreach.org and apply there to ask for the filament.
And that's $75 per spool, per 10 spools, what?
That was for one spool. But obviously to scale up from there would be less, right? So it's not going to be twice that for 2 spools, right. 3 times that for 3 spools. I guess for larger quantity, to give you an example, we just did 10 spools to Paraguay from, no, let me take that back. Yeah, 10 spools to Paraguay from Hungary. Don't ask me why it was coming from Hungary, please. So 10 spools to Paraguay from Hungary, and that was about $230. And that one actually Enable Outreach covered. So that gives you some sense that, if you can find it locally, sometimes the filament might be cheaper, but if you have no other solution, then this can work out for you.
And Joe, you have printed with this hands-on experience using it?
No, I've never printed with it. So I'm looking for some feedback from some of the early adopters here, which is kind of why we did those first couple of shipments. So we've got 10 rolls out to Paraguay, 10 rolls out to Turkey, and this other 10 or 20 rolls I think is going to wind up going to Drew and Steven at Team UK. because they're going to use it for a lot of prototyping. So I think we'll get some pretty good, solid, reliable feedback pretty quickly. We'll see whether or not it has any problems.
Right. You should also, I'm sure you're thinking about these things, but good thing not to get a vast amount all at once, right?
It would be best.
Old filament may absorb moisture and become less effective.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I say ideally we would take this in small shipments. It'd almost just be sort of a drop shipment thing, right? Like we'd get an order from a chapter and we would just send an email to the NatureWorks manufacturer and they would put out a box of 10, but they've kind of stepped back a little bit from the logistics, and their donation frankly was the resin and the filament, not really the order management and logistics piece. So they're asking us to provide that part of the solution.
Well, it's a lot of work, so I think it's great that you're doing it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll just get it all out so quickly that it won't be an issue.
I'm sorry?
I said hopefully we'll get it all out so quickly that it won't be an issue. It won't degrade.
It's good. It's good to begin with. Okay, well, keep me posted on that.
All right, absolutely. Yeah, I'll keep everyone.
What's the story on colors? Are you going for bold colors, or is this an opportunity to get skin tones?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Actually, that's an interesting aspect to this. So NatureWorks, at least their U.S. manufacturer, has offered to do a custom color run. So, and they're leaving it up to us as to how big we would want to do. I think they've asked that at least be, 50 spools or 100 spools or something like that. But, to your point, John, if we're going to do a skin tone, especially one that might work in Asia or Africa or, Haiti, some of these other areas where they're really looking for special skin tones, we could split that up into multiples. We could do one sort of dark brown in a big batch run. But then, whatever we don't do in this custom color run, we would probably just get some of our more standard colors, the whites, the blacks, the golds, the pinks, the reds, the stuff that everybody asks for.
Well, so there's some people at RIT and some people at Foundation who I think have now sort of come up with color specs, Pantone color specs, skin tones.
Oh, really?
And when you get to that, we should do it right. There's brown and there's brown and there's brown, and we'll know what we're doing.
No, that would be perfect. In fact, I was kind of hunting around on Pantone's website, and I'm not the right person to really pick. So maybe what we can do is for like Pranay, Vikat, Ishmael and Ghana, some of these folks who have specifically asked for skin tones. I think even Christian in Colombia has asked for skin tones. It might be interesting to ask each of them to kind of go and look at that list and tell us what is the closest match to their need. Do you have a website, or could I email you separately in order to get that?
Well, you can email me or Skip directly would be the way to just the skin tone conversation. But I'll tell you frankly, the first thing is to make sure that the filament is workable.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You have more experience with this kind of thing than I do, but I do know that you can get a bad batch, you can get a good batch. Come wrapped in sealed plastic, it's going to absorb moisture. That's the very first thing. Once we pass that hurdle, we should immediately get onto the skin color problem.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a good bar for us to meet. At least get good positive feedback from the first group of people who get it.
Yep.
Well, I suppose worst case scenario, we can just use it for prototyping, right?
Well, I hope so. I mean, the thing is prototyping when you have flaky filament as well.
Yeah.
I'm not being down on filament. The printers are flaky also, but the point is it's a very fragile process.
Yeah. All right. Well, fingers crossed on that.
Yep.
So I'll kind of save everybody anything else on the agenda unless you guys specifically want to cover it. Anything else
Hello.
that you guys had
Hello,
a
can you
question
hear
about?
me?
I think
Yes.
yeah. Hi.
Yeah, actually, I moved on to my phone so that you could actually hear me. I'm very happy and excited to talk to you all. And yes,
Great.
it's a great thing to join you. We were the first thing in India, and we want to spread across India. I just had a discussion with a person in Mumbai, and he wants me to come down to Mumbai to meet a leading orthopedic in Mumbai. So he wants me to show him the the prototype what we have made, and just wants to interact with me so that he can actually know what we are doing. So he is
Who is that? I missed that. Who are you interacting with?
he is the MD of Hospital Jupiter in Mumbai. That's I could not get his name, but the person who I actually introduced to, he has
Excellent.
already shown him the photos of the model what we have printed, and he's excited to meet us both, me and Pranay. So we are just going to plan some visit to Mumbai, maybe to talk, have a discussion with him, and he was also quite excited to meet. And the second thing is that in Goa also, I just had a discussion with one of my friend who is going to help us, do an interaction with a leading orthopedic in Goa also. We have been trying to search out, recipients in Goa desperately, me and Pranay. Luckily, I think so. Joe has linked us to a lady in Calcutta. What Pranay must have already briefed you. We have already talked to the lady, and she is quite excited. She was actually wanting these hands for last 3 years. Her kid was just 6 months old when she saw this Enable USA, and from that time she was just waiting for this, day like she could actually get a hand printed for her son who is just 4.5 years old. And she's very much happy that we are there in India, and she was like she was happy to come down to even Goa to
Wow.
help us out taking the measurements, or else even to come and see how this works. And the mother also is so excited that she has said that she would like to join this group and also help other kids. That's what was more sort of happiness I felt, that that lady doesn't want it for her kid, but she wants to spread the word to the entire state in that area region. So that's a good thing. What I felt, I and Pranay, we were more excited because this is the first kid we are going to work on. So I've sent her the details of the link to how to take out the photos, and I've instructed her. I just had a talk to her 15-20 minutes back to this call, and
That's terrific. That's
Yeah,
terrific.
that's exciting.
I'm going to paste in the email of the head of Arogya Seva, because, to me, India is one place. I know it's a very big subcontinent with lots of places, but he's also traveling. My guess is that in the next 6 weeks, he will be in Mumbai and in Goa. And we're trying to pull together. I can tell you this also, actually, you Goans. February 17th, there will be a medical yatra in Bhopal, in the center of India, that Seva is organizing, and we hope to screen a number of people who will end up with enabled devices. I would like to Indian network emerging right now. Your help pulling it together. So I'll tell you what, I'm just going to give you my email, which is as ever, jshell@gmail.com. Please email me your contact information.
Okay, sir.
I'll start developing the list of known Enable activists in India. So just so you can interact with each other.
Yes, sir.
Good. Okay.
Well, excellent. I think we just saw a case study in, you know, one of the great benefits of this chapter's community here, you know, this sort of little subgroup of groups. You know, we find it just through conversation that there's so many ways that we can help each other out. So I'm glad we got to see an example of that today.
Very good. Great to meet you all.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. And we'll schedule another one of these soon. So just keep an eye out on the Google Plus group, and we'll post it up there and do the same sort of thing so everybody can vote for the best day. All right.
Yes.
Okay, sir.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Down my email address, gentlemen.
Yes, sure. Have a nice day, sir.
Yes, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Yes,
Thank
bye.
you.
Thank you. Bye.